No. Good. Now, yes, there you are.
Okay, you got it. You got my. You can hear me?
Yes. If you want that, you can click on the camera.
Oh, where in the hell is the camera? Right there.
Next to the microphone.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, you are here. Good. So Sergey Kozin is with the headphones, is the translator for Sergey Bandurovsky, who is the other Sergey. And he's without the camera, as I see.
Да, работает у меня камера. Ну, да.
Hi,
Сейчас.
Brenda.
Ладно, тогда.
Okay.
Good. So I guess I'm not needed here, Blake. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. All
Спасибо.
right.
Okay, good. Sergey, turn on your camera. Sergey, включи камеру. Включи камеру.
Сейчас включу.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, good. All right, so I'm leaving. Okay, bye.
All right, Marius.
Bye. Sure. Bye.
Thank you, Marius. Blake, hello, I'm Сергей. Blake, здравствуйте, я Сергей. Я вам написал, я занимаюсь интервью, и мы сделали интервью с Мариушем. Это Сергей переводчик. У меня несколько, это может это, у меня несколько вопросов, предподготовка.
Right. Can I- Right. Okay. Yes, I understand that. I'm putting in.
This is the left.
Okay.
Let's see, does it recognize it? Yeah, okay.
Okay. Can you talk again? Let me see if my pods are working. No, they're not working. All right. Okay. All right. What can I tell you? I mean, do you want a history? What I said, maybe I could, when I go home, I'm currently in my summer house in Napa, which is above San Francisco. And I don't have any of the old files or anything here. So basically, what I can do is I can just talk to you if you want let's say my background, kind of a history of how I got into this business. I can talk to you about that now, and I can do anything you want. But I don't think you should send a cameraman here in Northern California for an interview.
Передай ему так, что я договорился, что Мариуш у него возьмет интервью через Teams. Как это сделать технически, я вышлю и Мариушу, и Блейку. И они это сделают из дому.
Okay. Yeah, a little history. I don't know how far back you want to go. With me, I started as a teenager in my stepfather's film library when we started selling stock shots to television because the major studios wouldn't sell film to TV. So I started working in labs and film when I was in my teens. I worked throughout the film industry as a film editor. I worked in all Warner's, 20th. Um, God, it's difficult. And then I went into the military, and after the military, I went to Disney. And I was with Disney for 40 years. I worked as a dialogue director at Disney, and then I went into foreign dubbing. So when I did as an English dialogue director, I worked with Sean Connery, Glenn Ford, other actors, and there was an opening in the foreign department, and I went in and applied for it, and Jack Cutting hired me. Jack Cutting did the original versions of Disney films. He moved to France and had dubbing and made contacts there after the war. And he was there for several years. He came back, and Jack Cutting was a personal friend of Walt and Roy Disney. This is public information, but he directed The Ugly Duckling, and he was an animator. And then Walt wanted him to get into the dubbing because he wasn't satisfied with what was happening with the dubbing. And Jack was responsible and did the dubbing up until 1974. And that's when I took over, and I did the dubbing worldwide, Asia, Europe, South America, from 72 to 2000. Approved all voices, all animation voices, and went to different countries to supervise recordings and mixes. And I did that until, let's say, I don't know, there was a takeover at Disney, and that's when Jeff Miller came in, and the new management made him my boss. And I had to teach him dubbing. And the studio then wanted to expand into further territories. And that's when, with him, I went to Russia, China, India, Bulgaria, Romania, to find studios and directors to continue television dubbing and then theatrical dubbing. That was in the 90s. Yes. Oh, I know. You want to go ahead because I've been spewing off a lot of things that I know difficult to translate as well. Okay.
Джефф Каттинг, это был его начальник. Ага. Ты скажи ему, что интервью это сейчас, ну, я так, подожди мысль, это предподготовка, знакомства, а интервью будет у него брать Мариуш, и они отдельно созвонятся. Теперь задай такой еще вопрос. С ним есть кто-то рядом, близкие люди, которые смогут потом настроить технику? Ну, я не знаю, вот, ну, кто-то близкий, ну, моложе, я не знаю, как, ну, ты подумай, как это сформулировать, вот, ну, чтобы смотри, технику какую, как я хочу снять. Ну, это стоит?
All right. No, there's no one here that I know that has anything. As I said, this is kind of a getaway for me. Uh, uh, I am not familiar with anybody in this area that is involved in. Back in probably late September, early October.
А что дома будет тогда? Есть
You
люди,
know,
которые там... Мгм.
in regards to what? I can set up a camera.
Ага, ну, так, технический момент я не буду нагружать. Давай я сейчас преподготовительный, чтобы, короче, первый вопрос. Есть ли такие люди в карьере Блейка, про которых он захочет отдельно рассказать? Ну, что ему было приятно работать, какие-то воспоминания, ну, то есть о коллегах каких-то определенных. Вот, может быть, это один-два человека. Есть такие люди? Или он будет просто в целом вспоминать? Может быть, отдельно захочет про кого-то. Ну, вот как ты за Турылеву, чтобы ты понял, да? Ну, это образно я привел Джеффа, Турылеву. То есть есть ли такие коллеги, про которых ему будет интересно рассказать? Это такой первый вопрос. Давай, наверное, с него. А следующий будет вопрос, Сергей. Какие у него есть работы любимые? Может быть, он мне их на электронную почту, про которые он отдельно расскажет. Ну, я имею в виду проекты, фильмы.
Any projects? I mean, well, I've always felt I'm glad he's making this movie because I've always felt that dubbing directors and dubbing actors did not get the recognition that they should have because I have worked with major stars in America and English movies like Glenn Ford, Sean Connery. I can't go through others, but they had trouble redoing their own lines when you took them off the set and brought them into a separate recording studio. Even they had trouble because they're doing it mechanically, you know, to a beep or a streamer that goes across the screen, going beep, beep, speak. And I had to almost read their lines for them to have them kind of repeat me. So I think dubbing actors do not get the credit that they can bring the emotion and time it to a lip sync. They don't get the credit that they deserve. So I'm glad he's making this movie. He can ask, you know, if he sends me via the computer a list of things, questions that he wants me to answer, I can do that. As far as specific things, you know, I can't remember. I worked with 20 different countries. I supervised, worked with dialogue directors where we discussed characters. I would send information on our movies to every studio, every dubbing director. We would talk on the phone. At first, we communicated by telex. Then with the internet, I could send material. They could record, send it back to me. We could pick the actors together. And I did that for 20 different countries. If we needed a Donald Duck, I would fly up to Japan or Hong Kong and do saying, we wanted that. Or, oh, attaboy, Pluto, here, go. I would do things so they could hear, and then I could send material, they could practice, and then I would pick them after they recorded and send me the material. I did that for all the parks, all cartoons worldwide, because, the original cartoons, I'm not talking features, but little cartoons, there wasn't a Musifex track. So I had to send material out to have Foley's made where we recreated those Musifex track so we could redub all those cartoons that were in the library. And then I made programs for Scandinavia that were like, I'd string 6 cartoons together and make a series that would go out theatrically. And I did that for several years. I was making all the foreign titles in Burbank. I would talk to our London office. They would send me translations, and our art department, our optical department would make the translations, shoot them, and I would send them to Technicolor back in London and Rome. I did that for years. So I basically, for at least 10 or 12 years, ran all of Disney's work. Then when management changed, they brought in other people, they cut my work off where I only handled dubbing. That was then Disney character voices. But originally it was called Disney's Foreign Department. That was under Jack Cutting. And it wasn't until management came in and fired most of the Disney employees, but they kept me on. I did one thing I remembered. I did the Zulu version in South Africa. Zulu. You know, I can see, again, if he sends me a list of questions, I will do the best I can to answer them. I know, by Gavaruchi Paruski, I wish I could speak a little Russian.
Можно уточнить у тебя? Департамент, ты имеешь в виду DVCI, это было новости? Да, теперь уточняющий вопрос. Скажи, спроси у него, пожалуйста, ты так понял, он устроился работать в Дисней в 72 году? До 72. Ага, спроси у него, пожалуйста, кем он до этого работал, до прихода в Дисней, кто он по профессии? Я потом, ну, это подготовки вопросов.
Okay, what uh, I was, I started as a film editor. And then I got a SAG card for doing Screen Actors Guild as an actor or doing voiceovers.
Сам Блейк озвучивал, работал. Ага, я понял тебя. Вот. Один вопрос задай мне, это Мариуш спрашивал, я просто хочу от этого оттолкнуться. Мариуш мне сказал, что первый дублированный фильм, ну, как бы был там супервайзер «Белоснежка и 7 гномов». Ну, Блейк что-то знает про историю дубляжа 30-х, 40-х, 50-х или нет? Ну, вот такой короткий вопрос. Ты думаешь, нет, вот ты думаешь, что знает про это?
Yes. Well, the first theatrical, yes. Yes. And well, Jack Cutting, when he took over, uh, he went to Europe on the Queen Mary. He went down to South America to do the Brazilian versions, Portuguese version. And he had to fly down on the Clipper, the old Clipper, Pan Am Clipper planes. It took 2-3 days to get there. They would land on the water and then sleep on the plane and then continue on. And he started the dubbing. I mean, he dubbed the Portuguese versions down there. That was in the 40s. Not the 30s, the 40s, maybe even the 30s. And what they had then, because there wasn't mag tracks, so they sent records for the actors to sing to. And there was always a problem that in those days there were different electrical current speeds. Like our current was like 60 cycles, theirs maybe 50 cycles. So there was always a delay and a problem in those recordings. And they recorded on optical and then sent the tracks you couldn't look at to see if it was in sync. You had to judge it by eye to make sure it was okay as they were recording. Then they would send the optical tracks back to Burbank. They would develop the negative and make an optical soundtrack that they could edit to fit the picture. Very difficult in those days. That was back in the early 40s. And then when MAG came in, they could, you could record and then look at it to see if it was good sync. There were problems that they had in the early days, and even when I went down to Brazil in probably 19, it was 1970, 72. I mean, you couldn't communicate on the phone. You were like going to a country that it was difficult to find to get the actors. I had a wonderful director. I don't know if Carmen Miranda was a famous international actress and a singer, and her band leader was my musical director. The Roman, when I went to Rome, the Vatican choir director was my musical director for the vocals. I had great experiences working with actors and directors saying, this is how Disney wants it done. Because originally there were a lot of dubs that came back where studios were using family, friends, the same actors to do every show. That's why I went out and made sure that those voices matched exactly to what ours sounded like. That's the vocals and dialogue. And later, after we found local people to hire for Disney, like in Germany, it was Nikki Rabanus, she was hired, then Kirsten Sabe in the Scandinavian countries. We hired people, worked with them, Disney people, so they knew exactly what we were looking for. And I would communicate with them and they would go to the studios and do dubbing. All these questions, again, it's difficult for you to hear my rambling and try not only to translate it, gather all this information and try to relay it. Maybe it would be better. Oh, okay. So our ramblings are part of history. Okay, great. Uh,
Ага, так, я теперь задам несколько технических, и, наверное, пока закончим. Спроси у него, первое, его жена в технике разбирается, и есть ли у него штатив, чтобы потом можно было установить iPhone, вот, а в технике в каком плане, чтобы потом наушники AirPods подсоединить, ну, так как я тебе рассказывал. А в наушниках?
yes, I have a tripod. I've never done that. I have a tripod that you could put a telescope on. Yes.
Ага, AirPods это все подсоединить, да? Мгм. Так, и спроси у него, пожалуйста, он в каком году, или он говорил, он уволился с Диснея?
2000. I retired in 2000.
Он общается с Диснеем? Ну вот у него есть как-то общение, контакты, его приглашают? Или это, ну, закончилась карьера и все, он уже отношения не имеет никакого?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean Marius, and I still talk to Marius. The Brazilian, when we did Pete's Dragon in Brazil, uh, I hired a boy to do the vocals. He was like 12 years old. A year or two later, he came up and spent a summer with me in Burbank, and I showed him the studio. He went back to Brazil, continued, he became a well-known actor, and then he became the dubbing director for Disney in Brazil. And he went on and he works now. He's still dubbing. He's doing it for Amazon now.
Мгм.
Also, some of the things that as I the studio and people in the studio after I retired called me all the time and asked about negatives because I recut films for foreign viewing. Like we made Bedknobs and Broomsticks. It had all the German references, the German soldiers. I had to re-edit that film so it could be released in Germany. So there were different tracks, different dialogues, and studio had to call me to say, ask about what that was because we had all these different tracks and negatives. Popeye, I recut Popeye. It was a Robin Williams film, and I re-edited it because it had too many vocals. And our people at the studio said, "Great, we want to release this in foreign," but I had to get approval. So the director came over. I showed him my cuts, and I recut the film, or with Robin Williams, with Robert Evans, who was the producer, and they agreed that the film should be recut, and we recut it, and then that version was released. I used to do editing for cartoons that went to Scandinavia because a lot of them were censored. Because if there was any violence in a cartoon, I had to re-edit and make different negatives to send to that country. So there was a lot of editing involved when I was doing it. And after I retired, they kept calling me saying, "Where is this? Where is that?" Even though we had written records, I still had a relationship and still do with people that are there. And Jeff Miller, who came in as who I kind of taught the dubbing industry, the dubbing, what we did. He took over and expanded the department worldwide and did a lot of improvements in the studio. So he still called me and I still talk to him. He's retired now. And after me, my assistant, Michael Jones, did dubbing, and then he was replaced by Rick Dempsey, who was the director of all the domestic animation, dubbing. He did all the characters, Mickey Mouse, Donald. When we had any recordings, he would supervise those recordings. And I don't know if he's still there. He might be retired. It's been 25 years since I left.
Так, теперь, да, у нас, смотри, такой вопрос. Сможет, да, сможет ли Блейк мне дать электронный адрес своей жены, чтобы я с ней пообщался по техническим вопросам, и смогла бы она потом, ну, в принципе, я это у нее спрошу, быть как бы оператором, ну, то есть снимать, ну, контролировать, точнее, запись, когда он будет с Мариушем общаться, и сейчас он общается с нами через iPhone или MacBook.
Do I speak? I have an iPhone. Yes. The camera is on a laptop. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. My wife is a famous makeup artist. She was one of the first makeup artists in Hollywood. She ended up doing Carol Burnett, but she worked on films with John Wayne. Yeah, she can help me do things. She's still ornery, but she's still pretty good at helping me.
Как ее зовут?
Brenda.
Бренда. Ага. Он даст ее электронную почту, и она будет как контролировать.
Yes. Yeah, it's BRENHT. B.
No, you said BB.
No, B. It's Bren. BRENHT at AOL.com. HT is in top. Yes. At AOL. AOL.com. Why don't you say it back?
Можно я последнее скажу, Сергей. Цель. Мариуш, он, скажи, ну, сейчас оздоравливается. Когда он вернется в Польшу, я за это время подготовлю вопросы, и вышлю их Мариушу на английском языке. А Мариуш будет уже с Блейком контактировать и брать у него интервью. Ну, то есть они уже договорятся, а за это время я с Блейка женой технические вопросы обсужу. То есть я буду технические вопросы, а Мариуш уже будет съемку, интервью и, в принципе, этим вопросом заниматься. Может быть, там...
Sure. Okay. It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
to talk to you, and I'm glad you're doing this because, as I said, people in the dubbing industry need a lot of.
Еще один вопрос будет, Сергей. Еще один вопрос. Нет. Да, у нас есть минута еще. Последний вопрос. Были ли у него интервью про дубляж? Возможно, они где-то есть, видео или текстовые?
Can I make what? Can I do what for them? No, no, no. People are not really, I don't think in the United States, people are not that interested in dubbing. I mean, actors hate to come in and redo their lines. I used to have a terrible time because when you're working in films, there's always dialogue replacement because, when you cut from one angle to another, the tracks are not the same. The recording levels are not the same. That it might be a plane overhead or noises. So you always have to bring actors back in and do their dialogue. Actors hate doing it. Okay. Nice talking to both of you, and my pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, Blake. Bye.
Ciao. Very good.